So there's a lot of misconceptions about zero-emission transition programs that we've sort of found in all of the work around the world, literally. And some of those misconceptions are that there's somehow a payback in these investments.
Yeah.
There is no payback, at least in the United States, because the costs keep rising. Operating and capital costs both keep rising. It's partly to do to supply chain bottlenecks that are peculiar in the United States, but certainly happen around the world as well, with some of the bus manufacturers dropping out and less competition. Another misconception is that somehow when you do a pilot, that you know everything you need to know about the transition, because that's how it's going to be built out. And nothing could be further from the truth, because the pilot is sometimes a very misleading step. Agencies need to think through how the whole program is going to roll out, even at the pilot stage. And finally, the international experience is very different from the United States. You know, Rex, when you and I were at the UITP bus committee meeting in LA, we saw how very different the business climate, the operating models, and all of that, in the United States are very different from everywhere else in the world. So the fact that they have a much higher fare box recovery rate, which is a much more commercial enterprise, they have many more manufacturers that drive down costs by the increased competition, for example, in Europe, and the fact that the bus consumption, energy consumption, because of the heaviness of our vehicles and the bells and whistles that are on them, the Altoona test that's peculiar in the United States, all of those things matter. And as a result, the energy consumption is a lot higher, the vehicles are a lot heavier, and it has a much bigger impact on the utilities. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about, Rex, is some of the insights on the rail side that could help inform some of what we do on the bus side as these programs ramp up to be much bigger than, a few dozen buses, when it becomes, 200 buses involving 10 or 13 garages over a decade or more.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I think it's important to kind of bring some of those major project and program elements over to this transition environment. Project controls, as far as managing real time the cost, the schedule, the risks, making sure that we have a lot of data available to help the clients make those decisions and understand where the projects are trending, where are the certain elements of a program starting to drive the risk, what's going to affect the delivery. So I think it's a good analogy to talk about this program as it relates to these other major programs.
One of the things that I think would be very helpful when agencies are undertaking larger scale zero emission investments, and one of the things that we've done on the rail side is a program called SID3, and helping to manage kind of the systems engineering approach that could be very helpful. Talk about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Cliff, because our SID3 program, which is really develop, define, and deliver, and how it relates to the systems environment, but really what it is a framework.
Right.
And so this tool that we have really evolved out of the Crossrail program, where WSP, where WSP was brought in. The whole program was starting to experience delays. There was information that was happening on the project. People didn't understand what decisions were being made, why things are being late. So this framework that was deployed, the SID3 framework, really what it wanted to do was go back into the program and define all the different parameters of each of the different elements and compile them, into a schedule, so that now we have traceability as far as what decisions are being made, why things aren't happening, which is causing these delays. Right. And so what it did is it helped provide more clarity to the situation, and the team then was able to help refine and get in front of these issues and turn that program around to, and get it delivered on time. So a tool like that with a program like this, I think is really going to be extremely helpful because you have so many different decision points.
Yes.
So many different things that are needed to be done and managed and controlled. And the more visibility and transparency we can provide is going to make that project and program more successful.
Right.
And the other thing, we always forget that our clients, their agencies, and they actually have an agency to run. And while these are big programs, these are big initiatives, they have an agency to run. And so if we can provide information, provide management, provide support, that kind of helps ease the burden a little bit. I think it's really important to kind of allow them to stay on mission.
One of the things that I think also on the rail side that could provide great insight on the bus side is the load impacts from the utilities. So, describe how how rail projects treat infrastructure improvements from a utilities perspective.
When we're doing these rail expansion projects and we're bringing up rail service, one of the we're always talking to the utility companies as far as for power, let's say, and traction power substations. So when we're looking at a rail line, we're doing simulation modeling. We're trying to understand the power needs. And we're looking at all the different power consumptions across the network or the system. But then as we talk to the power companies and engage them, we really have to understand what is their ability to serve the project. Where are we going to get these sources of power? Because it sometimes they actually have to build new infrastructure to accommodate the new infrastructure of the project. What is that going to cost? Where is the schedule for that? What's involved for that? And we can get in front of that and help inform some decisions, and then figure out a way to work together, partner, and collaborate to get that source of power for that particular element.
Even if that means that our traction power engineers have to design the substation instead.
Right.
Instead of waiting for the utility to do that.
Exactly. Or we analyze a kit of parts where we can actually, some transit agencies have elected to, design and build those traction power substations themselves on site. Others, they come as prepackaged units. But more importantly, it's the infrastructure that the power company needs to provide the conduits to the actual traction power substation site.
Right.
Sometimes when they look at their internal engineering and the capacity that they have, they're not able to meet a delivery date. So we've gone in and actually worked with the utility providers to do those conduit designs, have that infrastructure in place, and then they just pull all the wires through the conduits. And that actually does streamline some schedule. Having a conversation early with the power providers, I think is how you start to understand what can be done, what is needed, and how best to support the agency and what they want. Once we can put all the issues on the table and get everybody to understand what that is, suddenly it does become achievable.
Right, and that's the program approach.
Yeah.